周深视频目前也告一段落，还记得周深伦敦取消后亲临现场鞠躬道歉，
实在是对不起。
那么歌迷明知道取消演出，为什么还毅然决然到现场？接下来听听外国朋友很深度很真诚的观后感。
Hi everyone. So we're here to talk about or debrief our Joshin concert experience. We actually went twice. The first time in London, unfortunately, show was canceled.
RIP.
Yeah, I found out about it over dinner. Was kind of bummed, but mostly concerned about the artist himself. How do you feel about that? I dragged you all the way to London.
Yeah, that was a pretty crazy trip. We flew all the way to London just for the concert, and then 1 hour before we were gonna go, I think you got the notification that it was canceled.
Yeah.
And I think most artists in the US, when like they're gonna cancel their show, generally don't ask people to come to like the venue, or like don't have any sort of like, oh, like I'm still gonna show up to the venue.
Yeah.
So that was a little weird, at least for me, from my experience.
Going to a canceled show.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know what to expect.
And a lot of people showed up. Like the venue was full.
Yeah, and I think most people knew that like it was canceled, right? And so like it wasn't like people were expecting the concert to go through.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone knew, which is also another weird thing. I think most like at least Western fans probably would just go home or something.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because they're there for the music less so than maybe there would be a few people who are there for the artist, but I feel like for Joshin, a lot of fans are there for him.
Yeah, and I think it was like a very stand-up move to like sort of go out in front of everyone and be like, hey, like I'm actually just like sorry, like I'm like super sick. You could tell it from his voice too.
Yeah. And I was actually gonna make a joke. Like I think the first thing he said when he came out was like, I've never been so nervous standing on the stage to my own concert, and I almost was gonna shout like, I've also never heard your voice so deep before, but totally inappropriate. Still was gonna make a joke, but I know he was going through some stuff.
It would have been my first Joshin concert experience, right? And so like I had no idea what to expect, but I think like I got something else out of it, which is like I got to really see the human side, right? Which like I think you don't get to see for the most part in like celebrities, right? Like you don't get to see like their down times, where like they're sick or like they're not feeling so hot. And generally you only see them in like their performance stage. And I think it was like very.
He was there in like a black jacket.
Right, like he was dressed in like regular people clothes, right? Like not any outfit.
Yeah.
So like that is like a different sort of like take, and like I think it was like even though we didn't get to see the concert, and that probably would have been ideal. I think it was still, at least for me, having not gone to one of these concerts or have seen Joshin in person, I think it definitely gave me a different sort of perspective into his character, that I don't think I ever would have seen if I had just only gone to concerts.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, it's not a normal situation. Yeah. I feel bad that your first experience was like that. But how do you feel about the fans? Like the fact that they were still there and like singing along to. I
haven't been to like huge amounts of concerts. Like I'm sure like Taylor Swift is sort of similar, but like I think fans are like being very supportive of the artist, and he would like apologize continuously, and everyone would be like,
crying.
Everyone's like, it's okay, and all this stuff, and he would be like, no, it's not okay, and it's like, I understand the struggles of the fans, right? Because like even like as an example, us, we flew, like to London, and we met a lot of people as well who like flew from even further places, right? And like,
there was a girl from Brazil.
Yeah, and like that's really rough, right? But I still think even through the like amount of effort that people went to go there, like I think that they were still very supportive of him as like an individual, which I think shows like a different level of empathy between fans. I think here in the US people would be like immediately like, so where's my refund? And it's like I don't think that was anything that was like ever asked or like the vibe that I got from,
although
like, the
he
fans.
did offer to refund and reimburse everyone's travel,
which is also super rare. Like I don't think most Western artists do that. They're just like, sorry, like I'm just gonna take your money.
Honestly, I've been telling everyone, like my friends from school, that he reimbursed everyone's travels, and everyone's reaction was like, what? So you just got like your
literally
trip to
unheard
Europe for
of.
free.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but that was it was great, right? Like I got to see a different side of both the fans and like Joshin, and that like I normally wouldn't have seen.
Yeah, totally. But to make it up to you, I bought you some tickets to Vegas, and we ended up going to Vegas for his concert, and it ended up being his first overseas show, and I was there for the first day and I sat second row. Amazing experience. We made eye contact, we laughed together. And then so second night I took you. So that was actually your first introduction to his live performances. And a lot of people say that like his voice or his artistry doesn't really translate until you see him live. How do you feel about that?
Ooh, his artistry does not translate. Yeah, I think it's like, so I think there's like multiple things. I think one, it's like the songs themselves, and then I think that there's like sort of the performance, and I think those are two different things.
Yeah.
So the way that I think about the songs is that I think most artists tend to have like a niche. Like I do a certain type of music, right? And I think they almost define themselves by that type of music, right? But I think when I went to the Joshin concert, and I think it was fortunate for me because Rose plays a lot of these songs, and so I was actually familiar with a lot of the songs that he played. But even then, there were songs that I hadn't heard before, and there's different types of almost genres that he would like approach, right? Like EDM or like
there was a rock song in there.
A rock song or like sentimental ones, and then there's like almost party ones, right? And I think that the breadth of like the genres that he encompassed was interesting because it's not so much like I'm going to a rock concert or an EDM concert. It's like I'm going to a Joshin concert, right?
Totally.
And
I love that.
That's into itself like that thing, right? And then that was cool because I've never really experienced a concert with the same artist performing and having such a variety. And also the show is like 3 hours long, which is also very long for
he
I
didn't
think
take
a
any
concert.
breaks.
Yeah, no breaks, right? Like that's I think very crazy, like in terms of just like being able to be on stage for that long, and also like the vocality of his range, right? For his like actual voice, doing that for 3 hours, like that's tough, you know, like that requires a lot of practice. And then there's like the sort of performance aspect, right? Which is like the lights, the dancing, the choreography, which I think were all great. But I think parts of it that were very interesting to me that I had never seen before were like the magic shows.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like the magic shows, like I've never seen an artist doing music, you know, just like pull out like a magic show, you know? And I think you can kind of tell, like he's not a magician, you know? Like I'm not going for the magic.
And he knows that.
Yeah, but I think that's what makes it even funnier, right? Which is like...
You should have come to the New York concert. He failed at every trick and it was so funny. It was really cute though.
I feel like that's why he does it though, right? It's like sort of like the, I don't know, like sort of bringing something that maybe he's not necessarily the best at, but it brings like sort of like this.
Yeah. He aims to entertain.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's not always through his music, but I think it's like you can almost feel like he's, even though I think you've told me this, he's not necessarily very comfortable on stage. It feels like he's comfortable on stage.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. He's introverted. I wouldn't say he's not comfortable on stage. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was an interesting experience. I don't think I've gone to a concert that was had a personality like that.
Yeah, and the interaction with fans too, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're telling me, like he called some people out, called people up to pick songs, and like
that's just insane to me. I can never imagine, you know, like an artist, like unless it's like I don't even know when that's ever happened where it's like you have a full-on conversation, you know?
Yeah.
Or like engage that much with the fan. I don't think that's like super common, and you know, I think it's like, you know, there's also the little inside jokes that people have. Yeah. And sometimes the fan will,
it almost seems choreographed, right? Like at certain parts of the song, like we kind of know what to say. Yeah.
I think that was like, it's almost like the performance goes beyond the stage and goes into the fans, right? Like the fans themselves are engaged and become part of like, I don't know, like the lore or like the sort of experience, right? Like after a certain song or something he says, everyone knows like the internet meme and they say that, and he like responds because he's like, like I know this is a thing you guys do, you know? And so like I think that sort of interplay between the stage or like Joshin and like the fans, I think is not something I've ever really seen in a concert, like sort of that dialogue right, between the two. Yeah,
I think as an artist, he does fan engagement very well. He's like really in touch with what his fans care about, and he tries to show appreciation for his fans, for sure. Yeah. How about the bows?
There's lots of bows. There's lots of bows.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's more so like I don't understand. I mean, I do understand, but like I'm not as.
You're not.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not part of the culture, so like I'm not gonna say I fully understand the gravity of like what a bow means, although I do understand why they do it. But I think that like sort of the meta level, like showing gratitude, right? I think is also something that's not necessarily as common within artists, at least that I've seen, and most of my time is with Western artists. It's like you can kind of tell like he is humble in that way, right? Which is like I think a lot of artists will generally be like, oh, I'm this way because of my fans or whatever, you know. But I think that he really goes out of his way to like really actually enunciate the fact of how much gratitude he has, right? Yeah. And I think that's like through the bows, right? And also like not just to the audience, right? I think it's also to the musicians and like the lighting people and everyone that like puts on the production, right? And I think this is also something I saw in London, right? Where like he not only apologized to the fans, he also apologized to all the concert like staff and all this stuff. And he knows that a huge amount of effort went into rehearsals and like lighting setups. And so like I think he like really actually cares, right? And so like that's why he remembers all of these, right? And he's not just doing it for like, I guess, like the show of it, right?
It feels really genuine. Yeah. I'm glad you talked about kind of the variety of music that he does, because I think through his second album, that's really like 7 years later, you know, like his team put a lot of effort into making sure the songs represent what he wants to communicate. And I think a large part of what he talked about in the second album is that he doesn't want to be put into a certain box, that he has a lot of facets, that he wants to take his fans on this journey. So I think this concert also kind of showed that. Yeah.
And I think like none of the genres that he like did like were like awkward, or like it didn't seem like he could not do that genre, right? Like I think the rock song was like, you know, very solidly rock. Like I personally like EDM and I like the EDM songs. And I don't know if those are some of his popular songs, but like I thought like those were great.
I love these too. Like when the album first dropped, I was like, wow, EDM. And also the topic that he talks about, like AI and like futuristic world where like, you know, maybe artificial intelligence takes over, and how does that affect us, and things like that. Very like deep social commentary in some, and I think this is also a byproduct of like the Chinese language, right? I think the lyrics themselves, because he also translated the lyrics in English at the bottom, right? Because I don't speak Chinese, unfortunately. But even then, it's like you can see through the lyrics that like it's very poetic in a sense, right? And that's all of the songs, regardless of the genre, right? And so I thought that was like cool, because you can do a rock song that's also like very lyrically complex, right? And so I thought that was like very interesting, because like especially Western pop songs tend to be like very basic and like not certain topics like breakup or
exactly.
What was I gonna say? I had a thought. Oh, social commentary. Like I'm glad you brought it up, because he does do well before the album, I would say, like in the 7 years between the first album and the second album, he sings a lot of like songs for TV shows, for movies. A lot of them are good songs, but you can't really fully see what he wants to express, because those are mostly serving the shows or the TV or something else, right? So I think what I really appreciated about his album is that, like, obviously it represents him as an artist, right? Like even in the album's name itself, right? Shen Self, like, which is he wants that to kind of capture many facets of him. And the social commentary, I feel like through the music and through a lot of what the music talks about, it's a lot about like how people are feeling right now. Like not overcommitting yourselves, not getting in a situation that you might be serving others more so than you're serving yourself, because you're trying to people please, you're trying to say yes all the time. I feel like it's, especially in China, it's what a lot of people struggle with, especially like culturally, you're kind of raised that way. You're like trying to like put everyone else's needs in front of you. So I think personally, I really appreciated that. I don't know if you picked it up. I feel like even though it might be like mostly you know, in the China zeitgeist, but I feel like still like mental health, like all of that is still, it translates across cultures and internationally as well. So hopefully people resonated with that too.
Yeah, I mean, I think like at least, because he would do that a lot and do throughout different phases of the concert, right? He would be like, you know, repeat after me, like, I am the best, or like, you know, I can do whatever I put my mind to. I think there's like two things. I think it's like what you said, right? It's like within the Chinese zeitgeist to like not necessarily hear that advice as often. I think in the Western society, it's like very common to hear that,
Yeah.
right?
But you can do it.
Yeah.
Like you're
Exactly.
the best.
And you hear that from a lot of different sources, but I think it's also a little bit rare for artists to go out of their way and, you know, say those things and have, like, you know, fans repeat that, right?
Yeah, it feels very therapeutic. Like,
yeah.
I'm very into yoga. It felt like I went to a yoga, you know, meditation.
I think a lot of even the like Western societies, like you can, you know, take care of your mental health and like sort of like do this. I think for the most part, I guess outside of yoga, it is sort of like a solitary experience, right?
Yeah,
like you do it yourself when you're meditating at home, you tell these things, right?
Yeah.
Compared to in a concert when everyone around you is like 500,000 people are repeating this same thing, right? And I think that that in of itself is a different experience, right? Like you are in a collective where you guys are all trying to be better, right? Or at least remind yourselves of that, right? And I think Joshin recognizes the power that he has in that way, right? And that, you know, he uses it for the good of like the fans, right? Like each individual, right?
I thought that was very heartwarming because like there are many artists who I wouldn't say abuse that power, but doesn't use it as efficiently, as effectively, or
or they just, you know, don't prioritize it, right? Like they can put it out on social media or like maybe within a song.
He's thoughtful about it.
The amount of times he did it made me think it's like, he's not just doing it for like a one-off reason. It's like really actually something he wants to like push forward, right? Which is great.
Yeah, which also makes me think about like the fact that you mentioned the I'm the best. I can do anything I put my mind to. His fans started doing like when he says repeat after me, I'm the best. His fans started doing you're the best. Even though that's really cute, and I think he probably deeply, like, secretly appreciated that, I feel like that's not his intention. And like, I think he tried to say that in the concert in New York in Barclays, and he's like, guys, like, I feel like it'd be more effective if everyone actually repeats after me, because that's the point he's trying to get across. Yeah, I was like, guys, like, if you can, just like actually repeat after him, not actually.
He's trying to do something.
Yeah, he's trying to do something. There's a point behind, like, there's a thought.
Yeah.
There's a pretty selfless intention behind it. So yeah, you started playing an EDM song after the concert.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's just my personal taste, right? Like I think I gravitate towards EDM more.
Yeah.
And I think like the symphony and like the way that the instruments are played, I think are a lot better. Or not a lot better, but like I think it is more in tune with like the style that I'm used to. Which, you know, I guess goes to show the breadth of genres, right? Because there's definitely songs where I was like, these are good songs, you know, but like it's not my type of song. And I think that like having that variety means that he can have a lot of different types of fans, right? And you know, maybe even so, like I think we were talking about sort of like the fan engagement and him as a personality. It's like almost like the genre of songs doesn't matter in the sense that like it's coming from Joshin, right? Like he himself is the value, I guess, outside of like maybe the specific genre that you're listening to, right?
Yeah.
I think, you know, some fans might be in it for a specific genre, which is great, you know, but I think, at least from when I was at the concert, it seemed like everyone loved every song, right? And I think it's not because of like the songs themselves, even though the songs are great. I think it's like Joshin himself is able to, you know, one from like a vocal, like sort of talent-wise, the vocal capacity, be able to do actual things vocally that most people can't, and as a result his songs are unique in that way. And then also just the general context of the songs.
And I feel like as a fan I actually enjoy seeing more and more of him rather than, you know, him staying in one genre or one box. And he did the girl voice, you know, the little girl voice in one of the songs.
And it was crazy that I was like, I think closer to the end of the concert where like he had already been singing for like 2 hours, and I was like, dang, like he's going so hard on like these like vocal ranges. And I don't like, because I remember the first time you showed him to me, and I was like, oh, like this is a woman singing, right? And you were like, no, and I was like, what? And then throughout the concert, I was kind of like waiting for that, right? And you know, he has like, you know, a vocal range that he tends to stay in, but then he also like will just go super high or super low, and I kind of forgot about that until like the later half of the concert where he started doing it, and I was like, dang, this is crazy. You know, like
And Big Fish. You said everything was building up to
like the like Big Fish being one of his most popular songs. Like I think at the end, like you kind of just build up the entire concert to get there, right? And then it's like that's when he has like his huge like solos, right?
Oh, that's true, huh?
Yeah.
He was alone on the stage. Oh, I never thought about that.
I think it's almost like a great, like, I don't know, entering the final act of the show where it kind of just goes into like these epic songs.
Yeah.
Which was like great.
It is his all-time biggest hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was very cool.
Yeah. Nice. Well, I think that's basically everything.
Love it. Well,
Yeah.
it was super fun.
Yeah.
Excited to go see more.
Yeah, I would love to take you to more if you are down. I hope he comes back to North America.
Next world tour.
Next world tour, please. And I have a feeling he'll go back to London and make it up to his fans there. So maybe we'll see him there again. Yeah, but Australia is too far, unfortunately. So we're cheering him on from the US. Okay.